Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So we are excited to bring you this exclusive webinar and public lecture on the company law in collaboration with the University of Law. Before we dive into today's session, I've just a quickly housekeeping notes for you. So firstly, this session will be recorded. So if you're unable to stay for the entire webinar, if you like to revisit any part of the later, so do not worry. The full recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, IAE Global. So along with the frequently asked questions summary based on today's discussion. So you will be noticed two functions on your Zoom screen, chat or the question and answer. So if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to asking for the Q&A session. So if your questions relatively like to everyone or will be addressed during the question and answers segment at the end, if the more specific questions will be tried to answer it as we go along. So of course, if you just want to say hello or share your thoughts, feel free to use the chat. We'll be always love to hear from you. So we are very excited to have the two amazing guests with us today. Beatrice Huang, Associate Director, the University of Law. Here. So Beatrice will be offer valuable insights into the study at the University of Law and explore how you can find your pathways into the legal professions. So even from the non-law background, James Tsilhis is an English and Australia qualified lawyer who is senior lecturer at the University of Law, as well as being one of the programs and the students leads for the University Law Conversion Program of the London Mortgage Campus. And Jim was educated at the University of Sydney and qualified as a solicitor in the New South Wales after traveling, settled in London, and qualified as a solicitor in England and Wales. In his professional experience, Jim worked for a major organization such as Price, Waterhouse-Cooper Legal, as well as public bodies such as Brighton and Hove, the City Council, and the Equalities and Human Rights Commissions. As the editor's Jim as a law tutor for 7 years at the King's College London, prior to join the University of Law and become a senior lecturer. In addition to postgraduate qualifications in education and at the lecture, he specialized in company law, public law, and human rights law. So we'll be sure his expertise on how company law operated today, cooperated was providing a practical overview of its real-world implications and how you can apply this knowledge to your legal studies and future career. So before begins, let me quickly introduce IAE Global. So my name is Mimosa and I'm a marketing officer at IAE Global UK and Europe. So as joined today is my colleague Sam. So we will be follow marketing officers and who will lead a question and answers session later. So if you have any questions, please leave it on the question the answer box will be answered it. So why choose IAE Global? Founded in 1992, we now have over 30 years of the experience in international education with 40 offices across 10 countries and a dedicated team of more than 250 experts. So we work closely with more than 700 universities and colleges worldwide. So most importantly, our students' first approach ensure receive personalized, high-quality support throughout your journey. So here are just a few reasons. A truly global network with offices in the key locations worldwide and always at IAE Global team close by, support team, trust by the top institutions. We build long-term partnerships with the leading university in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and many other destinations. So not just applications, but also scholarship, accommodations, even aftercare, you stand the study. So we support students from the high school to PhD level. So helping each person to find right path based on their background and goals. So at IE Global, we do not stop at the applications. We provide end-to-end support to help you succeed academically and professionally. So now you that know who we are and what you maybe you're asking for, you might wonder how do we make sure we maintain such high standard in international educations. So at IE Global, we take quality and professionalism very seriously. So over the years, we earned recognitions and accreditations from some of the most respected organizations in the global education sector. Um, it means the support and advice you receive from us always meets strict ethical and professional standards. So we are proud to set accredited by the ARC, the American International Recruitment Council, so which sets the global standards for international recruitment practice. So we also British Boarding School Network Pro agent obviously recognized for helping students successfully enter the top UK boarding schools. We are member of IEAA, International Education Association of Australia. Also, we hold ICEF agency status, which means we meet global recruitment standard. Also, they in the finalists in Pioneer Awards 2025 champion diversity, equity, and inclusion finalists celebrating our commitment to celebrate inclusive and equitable opportunity for students from all backgrounds. So we also the PIE certified a strong mix of qualifications and professionalism international education consortium. And of course, we also British Council's member, so connecting with international best practices, especially in the IELTS and the wider student support. Oh, sorry. So now you that know we are fully accreditable and global recognition. So you might asking where exactly is IAE Global? One of our biggest strategies in our global reach. So our international presence means we can support students from all walks of life. So no matter where you in the world you are. So right now we have offices in the London, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, Nepal, and Pakistan and India. So that's which a wide network. So we're able to provide local support to a truly global perspective. So whether you apply from the Asia, from the UK, or anywhere else, you can always count on our team to understand your background to study or goals. And so how exactly does the help the students apply? So we completely understand that applying to study abroad can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming. So there are so many programs, deadlines, and documents to keep track of it, and that's exactly so where we come in. So we have like step one to create your professional study plan. So we always start with academic background assessment that's help us understand your education history, grades, and goals, so we can find the best pathways for you. So whether the foundation international year one, pre-master, undergraduate, or masters, or even the PhD, from there we move on to customers like course selection, so help you find the perfect programs that first your interesting strategies and future plans. And the step two is application and documents support. So we found the right programs. We will go through your documents together. So your recommendations letters, personal statement, or CV, or transcript, English test scores, that your highest qualifications. So we also help you prepare for interviews, so you can feel free confident and ready to choose university required for one thing. We handle the application submit for you, track its process, and keep you updated every step of the way. And finally, you receive your offer, we will support you with other like a service for the cards or the CLE, and of course guide you through your students with applications. So our mission is simple to take the stress out of the process and give you the best possible chance of secure an offer from UGM University. So because that is become like comes to your education, so we believe that journey should feel exciting, not stressful. And I will be share you our extra services. Also, in the September intake where we have the vibrant welcome event where students met new students and listen to the experience talking with the guest speakers on campus to meet the UK University part of the aftercare services. We're at the IE team with the students directly at the campus to offer the guidance, answer the questions, and provide ongoing support during their first step in the UK. Of many of them to got the offers into intake 2026. So for the UK or to lead a university in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, our students have received achieving amazing things and we couldn't be provided. So we also make sure the students transition smoothly from pathway programs into the full degree courses. So I especially proved of our strong partnerships with the University of Law, and because of the partnerships, we already seen so many of our students take their very first step towards to bring a successfully future there. So if you're looking for clear will support to the pathway or the studies all the way to graduation and beyond, remember IE Global together with our trusted partners like the University of Law is here to guide you every step of the way. Yeah, thank you for listening. So now to turn to the Beatrice Huang, Associate Director at the University, and Jim Tsilhis, Senior Lecturers in Law and Students Leads at the University of Law.
Hi, Jim. Do you want to go ahead with the open lecture?
Thank you. Okay, guys, I hope everyone can see me and hear me. Um, Thank you for the introduction. My name is Jim Tsilhis. I'm a senior lecturer here at the University of Law. I'm at the Moorgate London campus, so we're basically in the city of London. Um, and the Moorgate campus is the postgraduate school. So I'm part of the postgraduate law school here, and I lead the program that looks at the law conversion, which means that these are students who are coming into the university to undertake a conversion program. They've done previous studies in undergraduate schools elsewhere. University of Law also has an undergraduate school, um, for example, at London Bloomsbury and across the country as well. In relation to this lecture, I'm just going to briefly talk about the Law of Organizations module and how it fits into the overall program very briefly. Then we'll look at the course very briefly over how it works in the module. Then we'll talk about company law in general, and we'll start with business organizations. And then we're going to identify principal concepts and themes of company law that keep recurring in the module. So firstly, let me just briefly talk about the law conversion program and how the law of organizations fits into the module. So this is just an example of the postgraduate diploma in law that I lead on. And you'll see the law of organizations, which is basically partnerships and company law, is a part of 9 postgraduate course subjects that we teach as part of the law conversion program. You'll also see on the bottom that there's additional subjects. If you take these additional subjects, you'll be undertaking a master's level program. So an MA Law conversion program includes these 9 subjects, which also include law of organizations, together with a dissertation in law. If you if you're doing the MA Law SKUI 1, which is short for the Solicitor's Qualification Exam, you'll be doing these 9 core legal subjects together with a prep course for the Solicitor's Qualification Exam number 1. So this is how, and I'll let Beatrice look at any questions regarding the overall program. But this is just to give you an idea of how this subject, law of organizations, sits in amongst the program in general. It's a part of the core 9 subjects that we teach at the program at the PGDL, the postgraduate diploma in law level. You can expand that program out to do a master's level in relation to either picking up a dissertation or picking up the prep course for SKUI 1. Very briefly, just a course overview of law of organizations. It's 8 subject units that starts at looking at sole traders, then at partnerships, then companies, and ending up looking at debt financing and insolvency. So it's a lot of subject matter as we go through 8 units. It's quite a detailed level of study. To help you support, we've got module guides and unit guides, tutorials and video clips, online tasks, lectures. In addition to workshops, there are also lectures, and readings in ULaw design student materials, textbooks from Law Trove, and access to all the databases. So you're fully supported by way of material. You're also supported by access to a academic coach, who's your personal tutor, as well as access to a student journey advisor, in addition to well-being and other student support that you have at the university. So it's a well-scaffolded program. Let's now turn to the content of this lecture. Okay, so we're looking at, in law of organizations, we're looking at business organizations in general. Okay, that's where the name law of organizations come from. It's basically about business organizations, and in the unit, in the module law of organizations, we look closely at these 4: sole traders, partnerships, companies, and limited liability partnerships. The others could include, for example, charities such as private schools, which are organizations but are under charity control, and other things of the like companies limited by guarantees, for example. The mainstay of the module is company law, but we do begin by looking at sole traders, partnerships, and limited liability partnerships. But we spend most of our time developing an understanding, a very detailed understanding of company law. So let's think about business organizations in general before we pile into company law. So when we think about these different businesses, sole traders, partners, companies, and limited liability partnerships, let me give you an idea of what we're talking about in the British context. So sole traders are companies that are owned, that are about people who own and manage their business. These are individuals. They might employ people. You might have a person who's employing 200 people, but that's still an individual employing those people. That's still a sole trader. Okay, those people are running businesses that might have begun as a corner shop, as a kiosk, as a food vending outlet, and it's grown and it's grown and it's grown, and they're basically undertaking a business that's grown, and they're employing people as they go. So that leads to basically a sole trader that's employing people. We then have partnerships. Now, partnerships are when 2 or more people come together for a business venture with a view of making a profit. That's kind of an adaptation of the statutory interpretation. Partners own and manage the business, and they grow it out. They themselves might employ people as well. They might get other people to come in at a partner level and grow it that way. The important thing to notice about both sole traders and partners is that they're liable, personally liable for their debts and the contracts that they sign into. And that's an important distinction as we start looking at the other entities. The other thing to note by way of sole traders and partners, firstly, sole traders, there's about 56% of UK businesses at the moment are sole traders. There's quite a large number of people out there who are sole traders. Partners, though, has been dwindling in numbers over the years, and it's down to 7% of UK businesses are partners. Let's move on to companies. Now, companies are where there's an artificial structure that's created, a company, and it's divided between shareholders and directors. Shareholders own the business. In other words, they're called members in UK law, but we call them generally shareholders, and they're the ones that physically own the business. Directors manage the business. The artificial structure, the body corporate, as we call it, the company, is the one that enters into contracts and acquires debts, and the company is liable for those contracts and for those debts. The shareholders have a limited liability, and we'll explain that a bit more further as we look into it. Limited liability partnerships is a creature of statute. So there's a specific act of parliament that came out in 2000 that enabled big partnerships to move from the basic historic partnership model and move into a limited liability partnership. The partners, in other words, have created an LLP, a limited liability partnership, which is a corporate structure, similar in it being an artificial structure like a company, but it's made up of partners at that level. Members of this structure own and manage the business. So there's no distinction between shareholders and directors in an LLP. The LLP itself, the artificial structure, is liable for the contracts and for the debts. This makes a distinction when we have to think about who pays for debts when it comes to corporate structures and who pays for debts when it comes to non-corporate structures. Briefly, sole traders and partners are directly and personally liable. So if you take out a loan for £1 million to build up your business as a sole trader or as a partner, you're directly liable for that £1 million. They will come after your house. They will come after your car should you not be able to pay for it. However, have you had set up a company as a shareholder and you became also a director and you appointed someone else as a director to help you and you're developing a business and the company signed the loan agreement, not you personally, but the company signed the loan agreement for £1 million, the bank would have to go for the company. Unless you sign the guarantee behind the loan to support it, there's no way that you would be liable for that entire £1 million. So that's the difference between companies and that are clearly incorporated bodies in comparison to sole traders and partners, which are unincorporated. And we see that here in this graph here. We see that basically unincorporated business that don't have the protection of incorporation are sole traders and partners, and they're primarily creatures of business that have personal liability for their debts and their contractual obligations. Incorporated businesses are things such as companies, and these break down to private limited companies and public limited companies. Private limited companies are generally from anything from very small numbers of people to about 100 people, for example. But public limited companies are often quite larger, and they're listed on exchanges, stock exchanges, for example. So the public can buy shares into them. Okay, in private limited companies, they're not offered on a public register or a public shareholding exchange. You can buy into a private limited company, but that's going to be on an individual basis. You might be offered someone's shareholding, or you might buy into it as part of the way the company is raising equity, raising capital. But it won't be listed on a stock exchange. Okay, so that's the difference between private limited companies, which use the phrase LTD at the end of their names, and public limited companies, which use the phrase PLC at the end of their names. The other incorporated business is a partnership. And as we discussed, this is where partnerships go from this structure, which is personable and and loose, to a more formal structure where the partnership is incorporated. The other big difference between these structures, incorporation and unincorporation or non-incorporated, is basically that these are very informal. You simply just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to start a business. Bang, you're a sole trader. Okay? There's no magic words. There's no application to a government body like the Companies House to say, please let me be a sole trader. No, you wake up one day and you rent a shop privately. You get yourself on a lease. You become a sole trader. Very informal, very entrepreneurial in that regard. The same thing with partnerships. You wake up one day, you ring your best friend, say, you know what? Let's start a law firm. We can do that. Bang. You rent a shop together or you rent an office together here in the city. And then you go off and you become partners in a law firm. Okay. Again, very informal. Very different for incorporated. Incorporation is a procedure that happens under the Companies Act 2006. And it's managed through an institution in Britain that we call Companies House. Incorporation comes with a series of responsibilities. So though you get the freedom of limited liability, which I'll explain a bit more, there is a price you pay, and that price is having a lot of information disclosed on a public register and complying with the rules of registration that come with incorporation. So incorporation gives you some gifts, such as limited liability, which I'll discuss further in a moment, but it comes with a price, which is complying to the rules of the Companies Act, complying with the requirements of Companies House, and being on a public register. So it's important to understand these two concepts, which is about legal personality and limited liability. And this is a really crucial and central part of company law. When you register a company, when you want to create a company, in other words, when you incorporate a company through the Companies Act, it leads to a company, you know, Shoes Pty Limited, you know, Shoes in Moorgate Pty Limited, let's call it that. That has its own rights and obligations. In other words, the company has given a separate legal personality. All of us have legal personalities. We've got our own human personalities, like I've got brown hair, I like pizza, etc., etc. But companies have legal personality. And we share that quality as well as humans. We have legal personality. So as an adult over 18, I can do certain things. I can sign a lease. I can sign a phone contract. I can I can start, I got obligations in relation to employment, and I can be employed actually. I've got, responsibilities by way of my legal personality that are, that relate to criminal law, taxation law, business law, and even electoral law. I can vote. I have the ability to vote as an adult. So that legal personality is what I have. Companies share many of these qualities when they gain legal personality, when they get incorporated. So companies have a right on their own, separate as the artificial structure that they are, to basically enter into contracts, get loans from banks, employ people. Also have, they're also liable for things. A company can be liable for corporate homicide. A company can be liable for environmental damage. A company can be liable for not paying its taxes. Okay, so it has therefore got a legal personality that enables the company to do things. But remember, the company is artificial. It's not like me that I've got arms and legs and I can do things. So the company being artificial, it needs directors to do the things that it can do. So directors will sign a contract in the name of the company. Directors will get a loan in the name of the company. Directors will, undertake certain activities that they can do through the legal personality of the company. So it gains legal personality. However, the liability it incurs, that doesn't spill over to the members, to the shareholders. Shareholders have limited liability. If the company decided to get a loan for £1 million and it couldn't pay that £1 million back, it doesn't mean the shareholders themselves are liable for that £1 million. The company is. The liability of the shareholders is limited to their level of contribution in the company. If your shareholding was basically based on a promise that you'd pay £10 per share, okay, and you paid for 10 shares, that means £100. That's the limit of your liability. If you haven't paid those £100 yet into the capital of the company, that will be eventually asked for you if the company has gone insolvent. Okay, that's the limit of your liability. How much you paid in by way of your shareholding is the limit of your liability. So companies can go around employing, contracting, getting loans, but the liabilities that comes from that remain with the company. Shareholders have limited liability. And you might say, well, why would a bank loan to a company, if we can't go after the shareholders? Well, there could be many reasons. The company might be doing quite well. It could be successful. And a bank would look at the records of that and say, that's great. We'll take a part of that. We're happily, we'll happily do that. Banks can, remember, still take security on the basis of what the company already owns. The company might already own a building or a floor of an office. It's like, okay, we'll take a loan security over that. They may take a loan security over the company itself as a registered entity, a company's house. So in other words, they'll put an instrument and notify people that this company has a loan. So there's different reasons why companies still get loans from banks successfully, even though there is limited liability for the members, because there's plenty of incentive to do so. There's enough security in the system to enable banks, for example, to feel comfortable in giving loans to companies. So the difference between the limited liability of shareholders and the legal personality of companies is what we call the veil or the sheet of incorporation. It separates the liability of the members from the liability of the company. So I spoke about how companies are split between directors and shareholders. They do different things. Directors have day-to-day management, okay? Holders don't manage things day to day. They leave those day-to-day duties to the directors. But you would think, well, that means directors can just do whatever they want. Can they? The answer is no, not anything they want. So what happens as a result of general law, but now also as a result of the Companies Act 2006, there are many general duties that are applied now to companies, and especially their directors. Directors have many obligations in the Companies Act, leading from Section 171 to 178. So, for example, there's a general director duty that directors have to manage the company for the general success of that company, but also keep in mind things like employees and creditors and other things as well. There are other duties as well, like the duty to avoid conflict of interest. And there are other duties such as, not to use your power as a director to advance the concerns of a third party. So these general duties in company law keep directors in check, okay, and they balance their power. So they're regulated in that way. Shareholders have some rights, though. They have rights to answer to control the big issues in relation to a company. Its change of name, its change of purpose, should that be mentioned in its constitution. They also are the people that have to approve certain things that the directors are doing. If a director wants to make a transaction where it's selling or it's buying property from the company, it's shareholders who get the right to approve that, because they want to make sure that the director isn't getting an easy deal just because he's an insider or she's an insider. So they get the right to check these transactions. They get the right to check should a director be getting a loan from the company. That transaction needs to be approved by the shareholders. So, and certain contracts that are given out to directors, like long contracts, they need to be checked also by a director, by a shareholder. So shareholders get to check also the powers or certain activities, especially the impactful activities, um, when these activities are occurring. Shareholders, of course, have obligations as well, and they are also are regulated by the Companies Act as well. So when it comes to sources of law that impact upon companies, or sort of upon our variable different organizations that we're looking at, let's just keep in mind the differences here. You can see that sole traders have very little specific regulation. What they have is basically the general law. So there's law in relation to tort, not to be negligent. There's law in relation to crime. Don't undertake criminal activities. There's general law in relation to taxation, for example. Pay your taxes. But beyond that, there's nothing specifically that regulates a sole trader. Let's say misrepresentation, sale of goods tax, things that we know generally apply to business in general. But there's no Sole Traders Act 1998. Partnerships are managed by a very old act, in the 1890 Act, which basically still is applicable today and kind of gives certain parameters to partnerships, but it's often left to their own devices as well. The big things for partnerships is basically that they're directly liable, but also how they're authorized to act amongst each other. Which partner had authority to sign that contract and why? And that's kind of managed in the Partnership Act. Otherwise, there's lots of case law since 1890 and before and after that basically manages this as well. And like sole traders, they're managed by general law. Companies, of course, have the Companies Act, which is one of the most significant pieces of English legislation. Um, there's plenty of secondary legislation. I've indicated here an example of the Company Directors Disqualification Act, 1998. This sets up basically how company directors could be disqualified for their conduct. So keep that in mind. In addition to the general duties that exist under the Companies Act that I've mentioned before, the 1998 Act here, the Companies Director Disqualification Act, also leans in to basically disqualify directors when their actions have been egregious. When they've basically gone beyond where they should. You can be disqualified as a director. Now, remember that because there are a lot of companies out there. 37% of the UK economy is basically run through companies. So if you were disqualified as a director for 5 years, that really harms your ability to economically interact in British society. So it's quite a sword hanging over the heads of directors should they not act appropriately with their companies. We have plenty of case law in relation to companies, of course, and there's EU law, which now is called assimilated law, that still applies to companies to this day, that we've absorbed. Even though we've left the EU, we've assimilated a lot of their legal principles because we were in there for almost, quite a while, over 40 years. Articles of association are the rules that form the constitution of the company. When people come together to form a company, they sometimes list specific things in their articles of association about how the company can be conducted and what it's doing. By law these days, what you'll find is that the Companies Act provides a set of model articles that you can easily adopt, and many companies do that because it's just easier to adopt the model articles that kind of cover the everyday running of things and how votes are undertaken, how do we give notice in relation to different meetings, and amongst other things as well. Limited liability partnerships, as I said, is the newer creature, and it comes to us by the Limited Liability Partnership Act, and that kind of represents basically how London grew over the last 30, 40, 50 years. Basically, London has been populated by major accounting, legal, and architectural firms. And as these firms ended up having massive multi-billion dollar projects to work on, their partners turned to the government and said, we're afraid of our liability now. We're conducting all this great business for the UK, but our liability now extends to deals that are now in the multi-billions. We feel, if we're partners, we're personally liable for that. Please give us some protection. The government, in response in 2000, enabled partnerships then to create limited liability partnerships to enable these institutions, these kind of organizations to keep growing with the protection of limited liability. So that's basically your taster lecture on this module, but also on company law here in the UK. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Jim. The video will be recorded. We don't have question now, but I believe we will have lots of follow-on questions after this session. Even for myself, that solved my questions and my friends' questions. It's a very down-to-earth session, I would say. Even as an individual, I don't have any law-related background, but this solved my questions. If I'm going to start my company, which one should I choose? Then previously I thought about, okay, just be self-employed, it's simplified. But for now, I need to question that because it seems there are lots of personal liability included as a sole trader. Thank you. It's very insightful and down to earth. We just have one question coming through. How the university helps students build foundation legal skills for SQE exams?
I can take that question if you want to.
Yes,
SQE basically is another program here at the University of Law. It's quite a big program. It's a very popular program. We have multiple different SQE programs available to students. So if people aren't aware what SQE stands for, it stands for the Solicitor's Qualification Exam. And there's the Solicitor Qualification Exam number 1, which is 2 multiple choice tests, SBAQ tests that happen over 2 days. And then there's the Solicitor's Qualification Exam number 2, which looks at skills mainly, such as advocacy and drafting skills and research skills. Now, the University of Law is a leader when it comes to these kind of programs. So we've got standalone prep programs for both SQE 1 and SQE 2. We've got a combined program that is under the aegis of an LLM, a master's program, basically. And that master's program also gives you the ability to add further modules in. So in addition to having your prep taken care of by way of SQE 1 and SQE 2 prep, if you do the LLM program, you also get a chance to do a deep dive in bespoke subject matter such as IP, business law, so in that regard, we've got student choice quite covered in relation to either picking up bespoke SQE 1 prep, SQE 2 prep altogether, or do it underneath an LLM and also pick up further modules that allow you to deep dive and specialize in different legal areas. I hope that answers that question.
We don't have follow-up question from Rose. I guess that answered the question. Oh, okay. She just texted, which one is the most suitable for someone without legal background, PGDL, SQE prep, or LLM pathways?
Okay, that's a great question. If you haven't got a legal background, you should think about, it would be almost impossible to go into a SQE exam without an underlying legal degree, either a legal undergraduate degree or a conversion degree. There's 2 reasons for that. Firstly, the SQE exam is very hard if you don't have an underlying legal knowledge. And number 2, recent surveys have indicated that 98% of law firms won't hire people unless they have an underlying legal degree, either an undergraduate law degree or a law conversion degree. And that survey comes to us from Legal Cheek, which says, yep, the legal profession won't touch you unless you have an underlying legal degree. So I would say if you don't have a legal qualification, do the conversion program first, clearly, and then begin your journey with SQE 1 and SQE 2 prep, and then undertake that, do the SQE and qualify. That's the course. That's the program overall. That's how you would take it logically. The idea of just deep diving into Security One without any underlying legal knowledge, it's unfathomable. It's it's therapy. That would lead to months of therapy as a result of that. I can't imagine it being any helpful. Any other questions?
I think we are okay. I hope, Rose, we answered the question for you. And is that possible
Uh,
to study part-time in University of Law? Okay, I will cover the question.
mm,
Yes, we do have part-time, but the student, we don't sponsor student visa if you choose to study part-time on campus with us. If you are based overseas, then of course you can do part-time online. But please check your visa status with IAE before you choose part-time. Okay, great. Thank you, Jim, for your time and today. And I will cover in the next 15 minutes, I will cover our entry requirements, admission process, and the course we're offering for law conversion course.
okay, great.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye, Jim.
Bye bye.
Okay, if you have any questions at the end, let me know. I will check the questions at the end. Um, Hi, everyone. I'm Rong, and just now Mimosa introduced me as Beatrice. I use both names, so feel free to call me whichever you prefer. I work for the University of Law International Recruitment Team. Today, our topic is about law, focus on law conversion because we receive a good interest from certain markets about law conversion course. Outside of law, we offer other courses like criminology, business psychology, computer science. If you do have interest in other courses, you might check our other webinars or check with IAE for other advice. So first of all, I got many students why study at the University of Law. By the name, we have over 140 years of history in training UK practicing lawyers. So we've trained more practicing lawyers in the UK than anyone else. And secondly, I would say we are running the campus in multiple locations. So depending on if you want to stay in London, it's more vibrant, you need a city lifestyle, then London would be the perfect choice. If you prefer somewhere quiet, then we have Manchester, Birmingham, which are the second largest city in the UK. And the unique part of our course, you will be taught by experts. So we just had the open lecture from Jim. You can tell Jim come with many years of practical experience before teaching at the University of Law. So at ULaw, at postgraduate level, all your tutors will be qualified lawyers if they teach law conversion course. At undergraduate level, 90% of the tutors are qualified lawyers. So our focus is to deliver practical degrees, especially for students who want to practice as a lawyer in the UK, then you will need practical knowledge and skills. So I just mentioned campus. We have two campuses in London. The difference is at Bloomsbury campus, we offer both undergraduate and postgraduate program. Moorgate campus is a postgraduate program only. So all of our campus on the left-hand side, like Birmingham, Leeds, Nottingham, Bristol, London, they are all city center based. This is for everybody to travel easily. And we work closely with many city law firms. And we're running mentoring scheme with many local and national law firms. It's easy for them to travel to run the events with our students. We also have partnership institutions. So you might see we're also running law conversion course in some of the universities campus, like University of Liverpool, Royal Holloway, Southampton, Exeter. So you might see ULaw's building based in those universities. Alumni, most of our alumni work globally. Most of them work in industry, in law industry. However, we do have some alumni run their own companies upon graduates. So law degree do open a wide door, no matter what kind of career route you are choosing in the future. We just mentioned we focus on practical skills, teaching and academic teaching. How do we do that? We offer one-to-one career support, CV review, mock interview. If you're applying a job in the UK law firm, you will need to do additional assessment, and we will have large database and a large job vacancy database to help students. And we run national law fairs every year locally. We run small events, employer talks, workshops. Our class are small class based, so we don't really have lectures. And most of the course, they are workshops. And we on every campus, we have pro bono clinic, which helps students to practice their skills via real life case. So for the pro bono clinics, we run our own pro bono center. We also work with many charities and organizations to support the clients to offer free legal advice. The advantage is when you apply the pro bono project, and then you will be assigned a supervisor, and they are all qualified lawyers, either as a solicitor or barrister, to help you to give real life legal advice to the client. And we work with 91 out of top 100 law firms in England and Wales. So any law students, they might heard our names, and those are the examples of the company we work with. Many of the law firm send their trainee lawyers to ULaw, so they can study at our campus while working in the law firms. So today, our focus is law professional courses. What's the difference between law professional and academic? For law academic courses, you might see many other universities are offering that. That's academic law degree called LLM, company law, LLM, family law. Those are examples of academic masters, which doesn't lead the student to practice as a lawyer in the UK. Law professional courses, by the name, you will see you will go through the professional practice route. And just now, Jim explained a little bit about the solicitor route. He mentioned the SQE exam. So under solicitor route, any student, if you have undergraduate degree, the most common question I encounter are, I have a law degree back in my own country. Can I just apply the legal practice course directly? The answer is no. So under UK legal system, the law degree is Bachelor of Law. So if you didn't study Bachelor of Law in the UK, most of the time as an international student, you will be considered as a non-law graduate. And then at that, when you are considering the professional practice route as either solicitor or barrister, you will need to do law conversion course, which I will explain a little bit details, what's the difference between the three courses. And then after graduation from law conversion or Bachelor of Law, which build up your foundation legal knowledge level, and most students choose to pass SQE1 exam, SQE Solicitor Qualifying Examination. So this exam is a theory-based exam. You can test in one of the Pearson venue, and it's a laptop-based exam. You don't need to talk to anybody. There's no film. However, for SQE2 exam, there will be recording part for the skill test, like advocacy skills, client interview skills. So SQE test your day one skills as a day one solicitors. And outside of both exams, then you will need to build up 2 years qualifying work experience. So some courses we are offering as a course provider, like ML Law SQ1 or LLM Legal Practice SQ1, 2, we guarantee students will receive 4 weeks of a qualifying work experience. So depending on your experience, if you are already a qualified lawyer back in your home country, then when you apply to be a solicitor in this jurisdiction, you will be exempted for qualifying work experience as a foreign registered lawyer. And on SRA website, you will find all the details. Conversion course, which is our flagship course we're offering, which there are 3 different types: PGDL, law conversion, ML law SQ1. So PGDL is 120 credits. It's a postgraduate diploma. NQF level, it's level 7. Equivalent of a master degree level. However, it's a diploma, it's not a degree. And if you are thinking, okay, the master degree is more highly regarded back in my home country, and then you can choose to do MLO conversion. So MLO conversion is PGDL content, which cover all the foundation legal knowledge under English legal system. And then plus the 60 credit dissertation. MLO SQE1 is PGDL plus 60 credit SQE1 prep course. So this SQE1 prep part will last 3 months. And then after you complete this one, you will have internal mock exam. Ideally, before your actual exam with the national exam SQE1. Okay, so the assessment method, just give you a brief overview. What's the assessment like? There's no dissertation. We have been asked what's the SBAQs. It's a single best answer. So 40% of your exam will be training yourself towards preparing the SQE exam, and the format is single best answer. So under SQE1, you don't have any legal drafting, legal research part. All the exam format is a single best answer, similar with multiple choice, but probably all the choices are correct. You have to choose the best answer out of all the correct answers. And you will need lots of training. And the teaching methods have been asked the questions. We use the PEG learning model, which when students come into us, you will need to prepare and then engage through workshop. Under consolidation, then you will need to do the mock SBAQs, and you will have the whole elite system to monitor your study process. And we do have a SQE mock app to help you practice the questions for SQE1. Employment promise. We under this scheme, I just mentioned one course. It's at a vocational training stage course called Legal Practice, LLM SQE1 2. For this course, we help students prepare the SQE and then outside of exam preparation, we enhance, student can choose 4 different practice area to enhance their practical skills. So this course is included in our employment promise scheme, which means if you cannot find a job within 9 months of graduation, we will refund your tuition fee. We do have occasionally student inquiry about barrister course. However, the employability rate is always a question nationally. So the route is quite similar. Academic component, student build it via Bachelor of Law or law conversion, but at vocational component, it's compulsory. Student will need to do bar practice course and then call to the bar, finding pupillage. Application process as an international student. This looks very complicated, but actually it's very similar with other universities. So the difference is when you receive the offer, if you are from high-risk regions, then you will need to record the interview. If you are from low-risk countries, then your cash deposit amount will be different. Which if you check with IAE, I'm sure they're familiar with our process after working with us for so many years. And we do run internal English tests. If you didn't study your undergraduate degree in the UK, or you are coming from the countries who doesn't have our recognized English language qualification, and the personal statement, which we will ask a student to explain well why you choose this course, why choose us. And for the free online English language test, it's internal English language test. You get 1 attempt, valid for 2 years if you decide to defer. If your score, one of the components is 0.5 below what we required for conversion and law, we need a 6.5 with minimum 6.0 in every component. So if you have 0.5 drop, then you will be invited for resit. And fees, I just briefly mentioned because we are slightly overrun. We offer automatic international bursary for every international student. And if the cash deposit is paid before certain dates, so for this January intake, it's 24th of November, but for September intake, we normally put it at the end of June. Now you will receive additional £500 early bird discount. And we also offer scholarship. In your offer letter, if you apply, there will be a link for you to find the suitable scholarship. So if you get scholarship you have been awarded, your international bursary will be automatically withdrawn. Deadlines, the next intake is January, February intake. So I put the deadline here. For overseas-based students, the deadline is about 6 weeks before the course start date. For students domiciled in the UK, so you can see they will have extended deadline, which is the CAS deadline is around 3 weeks before the course start date. So that's everything I want to cover for this information session. And thank you very much for your time. Okay,
thank you. And we have some questions. So can you please answer the question? And also we have some students that send the question directed to us, but first you can answer the question in our chat box first.
Great. Which ULaw campus are most popular for law conversion? And do the facilities differ between locations? There's not too much difference for the facilities, the library, the student union, cafe areas. So I would say London is the most popular campus. So If you decide to be a commercial lawyer, you want to specialize in banking law, let's say company law, then London will be the best choice. You can go to, if you Google ULaw staff page campus, in different campus, you will see the lecturers' background. In London, many of our lecturers' background are in banking, merger, acquisition, and in Manchester, you might find more lawyers. They are focused on property law, immigration law, and child law, let's say. So depending on your interest, I would say they are all city center based, and they have all the required facility. And for all the legal research, all the journals, most of them are online. So I would say not too much difference depending on which city you want to be located. Can I have installment plan or flexible payment? Okay, so depending on if you are international student who need cash or you don't. So assuming you are international student, the maximum installments are 3 installments, which will be equally spreaded after your cash deposit payment by quarterly. And if you don't need a student visa, then you can apply the maximum installment plan, and depending on part-time or full-time, it's between 10 installments to 15 installments. Next one, are students allowed to switch campus after starting, for example, moving from Manchester to London? Again, if you need visa, then you are sponsored a student for visa, then you cannot switch. If you don't, then normally before 3 months before the next term starts, you will need to write to your student journey advisor. So every student will be assigned a student journey advisor after enrollment for any issues you want to raise. So for campus switch, if you don't need visa sponsorship, then you will need to raise the request to student journey advisor, and they will check if the campus you want to transfer have enough availabilities for this course. If yes, they will send a form for you to fill and sign. Okay. Does ULaw offer career service support specifically for students transitioning into law from other fields? So the law conversion course specifically are gearing towards a student who want to practice in the UK but without a law background. So we no matter which course, it's either Bachelor of Law, law conversion, legal practice, our career service team are the same. And the career service advisors, it's worth to mention, they are qualified lawyers. So when they give you the support, they come with many years of work experience in legal industry. That's another benefit. How competitive are the scholarships? Okay, so for the scholarship, depending on your background, if you want to focus on like human rights, we have Among Clooney Human Rights Scholarship, which is full scholarship. And of course, for full fee scholarship, it's extremely competitive considering the amount we received. However, if you are applying those like campus thing, or if you achieve first class from your bachelor degree and you apply law first, then there will be, when you apply the scholarship, it will tell you how many scholarship we are issuing. It should be around 20 scholarship for the campus thing, so you have more opportunity to get those ones. But depending on your background, you need to write a scholarship statement for some scholarship type, or you need to do the assessment. So when you receive offer on the link, it will give you a scholarship application link, and you need to check if you meet the requirement and what's needed to meet the requirement. Okay.
And follow up the scholarship question. We have a question about the scholarship that students want to ask, like what scholarships or any discount are most suitable for international students who entering the law conversion courses.
Okay. So for law conversion, the international bursary is £1,000 for every single international student. So as long as you are international, you are non-UK, you will be eligible for that scholarship. If you are the non-international scholarship, you pay home fee, which is lower. And for international students who need CAS, I just mentioned the early bird discount. That's additional £500 discount from your tuition fee. And outside of international bursary and early bird, the scholarship I just mentioned, depending on your background. So like campus day scholarship, it could be around £2,000. We also have full fee scholarship. And there are type of like a business first or law first scholarship. You might want to check if it should be between £1,000 to £3,000 on the website. The September intake scholarship is not updated, so you can check our January, February intake scholarship as a reference.
So we have a lot of questions, and thank you for joining us today. That's all the questions that we have today, and hope that everyone who have the inquiry to study law can get in touch with IE Global, and we can process the application to the University of Law. And thank you, Ron. Thank you for your participation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.